Welcome to my 252nd video on my work with OO gauge. There was a train show this past Sunday, October the 22nd, 2023, at the Bingemann Centre in Kitchener, Ontario, around 40 kilometres north of where I live, so I was up to check it out. It appeared that the space was close to capacity in terms of vendors and exhibitors. Attendee turnout was quite good, but not overwhelming. Naturally, most of the vendors were selling models of Canadian and US railways in various scales, with display layouts in N, HO and O. There weren't any display layouts focusing on British railways, but there were 3 vendors specialising in things British, and several other vendors with some British stuff here and there. And I always keep my eyes out for tools, etc., not unfortunately for layout building stuff at the moment, as I just can't come up with a plan for improving any of my current layouts significantly in the space that I have available. I do find that vendors who don't really specialise in British stuff have trouble pricing it properly. There were a couple of vendors with things that I was mildly interested in for use on my layouts, but at asking prices that I felt were out of the range of the reasonable, e.g. $90 for 2 old Graham Farish OO gauge coaches. I made offers, but they were rejected. I did end up buying several quite interesting pieces of rolling stock, all from specialised vendors with whom I was familiar. And I bought a couple of items in the way of tools and materials. This picture shows everything that I brought back. I was pleased to get these 3 Hornby 00 Super Detail coaches in excellent condition. Of course, they're made as British Railways coaches, since LMS coaches basically went out of the 00 range after nationalisation, and the wheels and couplings are plastic, and honestly I prefer the 00 metal wheels and couplings. For one thing, these plastic couplings break quite easily, and when they break it's quite a pain to replace them, so not fond of the wheels and couplings, but the bodies and roofs of these later 00 coaches are much more detailed than the earlier versions, and the glazing is usually intact on these, whereas on the older LMS and BR Suburban coaches the clear glazing material tends to shrink and warp, leaving an ugly mess that requires repairs. From a different vendor I also picked up the super detailed 00 restaurant car seen here, which I thought I could pair well with the other 3 super detail coaches. The Hornby clerestory coach at top was a bit of a random purchase. I do already have a couple of these, but I thought I might as well add another to the rake. And I don't know, I always say clerestory, although I know a lot of people in the UK say clear story. It just sounds kind of weird to me. I picked up these assorted 00 wagons from a couple of different vendors. I believe the van at bottom centre has been modified with a new paper overlay, or the body may be kit built, although the chassis is 00. There were a number of Trix TTR wagons on offer as well, but they appeared to be all of the old type, with plastic wheels with very large flanges. I know from experience that those wheels really will not run over 00 points, so if you want to run that type of older Trix stock on a 00 layout, you need to change the wheels. In this case I passed, as there was nothing very special on offer, and I don't really have suitable spare wheels on hand at the moment. I did, however, pick up one item of Trix rolling stock and was happy to do so. This Trix Super Detail coach is fitted with the later type of metal fine-scale wheels, so I would expect it to run okay on 00 tracks. I believe this was made originally as a BR coach, but someone has remarked it as LMS, and yes, that is the LMS logo in the centre, not a BR lion. And I did pick up one 00 3-rail locomotive, another N2, as seen here. The 00 N2 is a nice little model, even if it does represent a prototype that was never actually operated by the LMS. Here are a couple of tool and material items that I picked up: a tiny flathead screwdriver, a spool of wire, and a bunch of cutting discs for rotary tools. I use those cutting discs quite a bit, and I do go through them, as it's very easy to break them when cutting hard materials. And anyway, they wear out. They'll cut anything up to steel. I do wear safety glasses when cutting with these things, as they can easily fragment and hit you in the face, quite apart from flying dust, etc. The other thing that I bought was this box, which was labelled all kinds of junk and shit. Sorry, I cut off the all in this picture. The junk in question was mostly brass, tubing, rods and sheet. There's also a sheet of fine wire mesh and some other oddments, brackets and a pair of tweezers. I wasn't too sure about this, but bits of brass, tube, rod or sheet can often be useful when repairing or modifying rolling stock, so I thought this stuff might well prove worthwhile over time. So that's it. Not all that exciting, I'm afraid. There's another train show this coming weekend in St. Catharines down on the Niagara Peninsula. I've never been to a train show down there, although I have been to other shows in the same community centre location. I'm not really expecting to find a lot of stuff up my particular alley, but it'll be interesting to see if there are some different vendors, considering the more southerly location of this upcoming show.